The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
While a $1 trillion infrastructure bill is being negotiated by Congress that promises to collect $28 billion in taxes from crypto investors, the legislation includes enhanced reporting requirements for crypto firms that expands the definition of broker to potentially include miners, node operators, decentralized exchanges, and peer-to-peer transactions. Our first guest, Perianne Boring, founder of lobbying group the Chamber of Digital Commerce, has been working round the clock to amend the language. Welcome, Perianne, to the show. So, Perianne, I'd love to hear, what are your key concerns with this bill and what revisions are you seeking?
The biggest concern is clarity on the definition of a broker. Although that definition has been refined significantly over the weekend and part of last week up until when it was formally put forward on Sunday, it's still too broad. It is not clear if miners, if software developers, if validators, those who are staking digital assets, liquidity providers, also decentralized marketplaces, it's not clear if they are going to be included in this. It is absolutely essential that we get further clarity there. There is a two-pronged strategy underway, well, really a multi-pronged strategy underway to make that happen. The best way to get that clarity is in the legislative text itself. There are efforts for an amendment. Senator Toomey announced yesterday he does plan to offer one to address just that. Another way to get this type of clarity is through legislative history. And there has been, Senator Portman has made statements to us directly, as well as to the Washington Post, that he is going to put forward a colloquy. So we have a couple opportunities to get that on the Senate side. After this is done in the Senate, it will go to the House. There may be opportunities to get further clarity in the House. And then, of course, it will have to go through a regulation and framework process through the IRS itself. And there may be more opportunities to finesse the language there. So this is not done. This process is still very much underway.
So when you say that it's absolutely essential that it's changed, could you just sort of break it down for us? Like, why is it so important? You know, what's the worst that can happen if this sort of definition of broker remains unclear? Just for the viewers who aren't really following this at the granular level, why is it essential that this is changed?
Okay, so what this bill does is it clarifies who has to report to Treasury, to IRS, information reporting requirements, as well as what they're reporting to their customers. So if you are a miner or even certain peer-to-peer marketplaces, if you are not collecting that information, and if you have no way to collect that information, you have no way to comply. Which means what will likely happen is those types of players, those types of stakeholders will move offshore. And that is only going to be harmful to our economy here in the United States. I think we could even make a national security argument for that. We should have a robust crypto ecosystem. We should be validating transactions on U.S. soil. That's something that we believe very strongly in at the Chamber and want to make sure we preserve that through this process.
How did this problem get into the bill in the first place, though? Because it seems rather obvious that, like, a miner wouldn't have customers, which is part of the essential definition of a broker, right? So how did it get in there? Was it just that the people who drafted it didn't really understand this aspect of crypto, or was there some other reason?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes to share is logic and reason don't always persist in the political process. A lot of people are saying it's because of the way it's scored. That is something that has been quite frustrating. We have not been given any of the information on how they came up with this $28 billion. Portman's office is estimating that it is going to cover about 1/6 of the entire infrastructure bill. So there's so much weight on this provision because it's scored so high. Again, they should release that information. The industry and third-party experts should be able to verify that. So a lot of it has to do with how it's scoring. However, Portman's office, numerous senators, as well as Treasury has said it is not their intent to include minors in this bill. They've just really struggled to get that definition finesse so it makes that clear. It is rather, I mean, a lot of the pushback has been that it's unlikely to put clear exemptions in the legislative text itself, that there's other ways that are more appropriate to do that. But again, it would be best for the industry to have that clarity in the text itself.
Perianne, I wonder if you can go ahead, Lawrence.
Oh, no, kind of related to this was this bill that Don Beyer from Virginia proposed yesterday. It seemed to come out of nowhere, of course, and the question is, where the hell did it come from? And who came up with it? And is it anywhere tied to all the things that are happening right now with the infrastructure bill? How did this happen? Was it a competing interest group? What's going on there?
Yeah, so the bill that Representative Beyer has put forward really looks to develop a comprehensive regulatory framework for the digital asset space. It looks to define a number of terms, like what is a digital asset security. There's a lot of implications for stablecoins in here. I don't think this is directly related to the infrastructure bill. I think this has a lot more to do with all of the comments and the concerns and criticism that has come with the lack of regulatory, or the perceived lack of regulatory oversight for the digital asset ecosystem. We do not see this bill in a position to move through the legislative process, so this is not our priority this week. The infrastructure bill is definitely set up to move through the legislative process. The Beyer bill definitely is not. He does not serve on all the relevant committees to move this through. However, he is the chairman of the Joint Economic Committee, so he does have some degree of leadership on the House side. But there's a lot of things to break down in this bill, and we are working through all that and all of the ways it could impact our members at the chamber as well.
Just going back to the infrastructure bill, can you tell us a bit about your involvement? I understand you're working a lot with Senator Portman, and what have the back and forth negotiations been like?
So I think, well, there's a lot of people who have been working with Portman's office directly, as well as many other members of the Senate and Treasury and the Joint Committee on Taxation. Everyone has been incredibly unified on how essential it is to ensure that those who have no way to comply are not looped in. We have been given assurances that that is not their intention, but it's absolutely essential that we get that in writing, either in the text or in legislative record. So we are waiting on that. The process has started, so we should be able to see that soon, within the next either couple hours or days. But what I can say is that the industry has been incredibly quick to come together, and a huge part of what has allowed for the progress that has happened already is because people were prepared. For example, at the chamber, we have a tax task force. We've been convening for over 4 years. We've submitted numerous comment letters to the IRS on this exact topic, on information reporting. So we were very much prepared to have these conversations. We were able to convene people on a very quick basis. We're able to refine our positions, and that's made all the difference in the world. So we're very confident about where we are, but again, the job is not done, and there's still more work to do.
Just quickly back to the Beyer bill for a second. There's so much in that bill. Can you what do you think are the most sort of significant recommendations in there? And just, if I understand you correctly, are you just saying that you don't think it's going to pass at all?
It's not in a position to move through the legislative process. I mean, anything could happen. This is Washington, but it's highly unlikely that this bill would pass into law. There would be a lot of changes, as well as other things that would need to be in place in order for it to have propensity to move. One of the things that we're spending a lot of time talking about is stablecoins. This is not the only place where we are having to talk about regulatory oversight for stablecoins. As you know, Secretary Yellen convened a meeting just a few weeks ago with multiple regulators really talking about what should the oversight of stablecoins look like. And even Governor Brainerd over at the Board of Governors of the Fed made a statement earlier this week, also talking about the concerns the Fed has for stablecoins. So that is a huge outstanding issue that still needs to be discussed in more detail. There's some who believe perhaps this should be regulated as a security under the SEC's oversight. There are others who are pushing for this to go under the Fed's oversight as a payment system. Are others who are saying stablecoins are already regulated. They're regulated by both the feds and states, and we don't need further oversight. So there's a lot of things that need to be fleshed out when we talk about the oversight of stablecoins, and this bill is one place where those discussions are happening.